All right, so we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to CAS 360 Singapore. My name is Jennifer. I'm an account manager for CAS 360 Singapore, and I'm also going to be the trainee for today's training for CAS 360 Singapore Level 1. So in your webinar chat, I'll be posting the link for today's session. This is essentially your training manual. So as we do the whole process or demonstration in some of the processes in CAS 360, you can also refer to the link in your webinar chat as well. For any questions, kindly post your questions on the Q&A section of the Zoom toolbar, as this session will be recorded and all attendees will be on mute. So do post your questions once again on the Q&A section of your Zoom toolbar. All right, so we'll get started. So in CAS 360 Level 1, what we're going to cover today is the basics of using the CAS 360 software. So in lesson number 1, we're going to cover how to get started using the software, which includes signing in and logging into your software, navigating the different tools, including your navigation toolbar, finding your resource hubs, including your supports, logging a ticket through the software, and also engaging with our live chat support using our resource hub. We're also going to learn how to use the notification system. So in CAS 360, you are able to set your software solution to send an email reminder about the upcoming deadlines alerts. In your notification on the top right corner of the screen, you'll see a bell icon over there. So we'll learn that in lesson number 1. We're also going to learn how to set up your registered filing agent, which is essentially very important, especially when you want to process your location of the registered filing, registrable controller, and also your nominee directors on your annual return report, and also inviting other users onto your CAS 360 account. In lesson number 2, we'll learn how to get started loading your companies, which includes company registrations. So we will learn how to set up the data through a company registration process. We're also going to learn how to process both the pre-incorporation and post-incorporation documents, setting up your bank account information so that you can process your resolution for opening bank accounts. And also, we're going to learn how to import company data coming from Accra using our search registry tool. In lesson number 3, we'll cover on the company changes. So you are able to process a company address change within the software. And we're going to learn how to process that within CAS 360 and particular documents that you can process, including resolution. Lesson number 4 will cover on officer changes, which will include how do we add in or appoint a new officers, resigning new officers, or rather resigning a officer. So these adding bank accounts, we'll cover that in a little bit earlier, but essentially this content can be found on the lesson number 3, or rather lesson number 4 of the manual itself. But we're going to cover this a bit earlier to combine with your loading companies onto CAS 360. And also we're going to learn how to see who are the current officers and the historical officers during the process of officers change. Lesson number 5 will cover more on processing member changes in CAS 360. So you are able to process different kind of shareholder transaction, which includes your allotment of shares, share transfer, and also preparing all the necessary documents for these two types of share transaction. There are a couple of transactions that you can do in CAS 360 for shareholders, but for this exercise, we're only going to cover more on allotment of shares and share transfers. Also in the same topic, we're going to go through how to set up your nominee shareholders and your registrable controller and process all the documents, including your registers and notices for your registrable controller and nominee shareholder. Lesson number 6, we're going to learn how to process a company name change. How do we apply a company name change to reflect into your company data and also process the resolution and documents for a company name change. And lastly, your documents. So there are two ways to navigate the documents in CAS 360. Whenever you export out or send the document directly to your clients, the software will automatically save all those documents into your global documents and your company documents. So I'm going to jump straight to the CAS 360 and go all the way to the very beginning. So when you first started with CAS 360, you will receive a welcome to CAS 360 and My BGL. So I'm going to talk a little bit more of the difference between My BGL and CAS 360 in a while. But essentially, when you receive the welcome to CAS 360 email, this is to confirm that your account owner or the main admin of the CAS 360, which is either your manager or the head of, or your team leader or your head of department, who are the main administrator, have already sent an invite for you as a user to access to your company's CAS 360 account. So your username will be your email address, and you will be also be prompted to set up your password as well. So you can simply log in. This is the domain. So I'm just going to go back over here. For those of you who don't recall this, I will share this particular link onto the webinar chat. So I would highly recommend you to bookmark this link so that's easy for you to navigate. Now, at the beginning part, when you're setting up your account, you are required to set up your MFA. So this is a very important step when setting up your account. So once you've set up, you can simply log into your main dashboard. And once you log in, this is where you'll see the main dashboard and your navigation toolbar. So before I go through this, I'm just going to come back into the topic of setting up your MFA. So essentially, if you haven't been invited to access to CAS 360, I would highly recommend you to prompt your account owner or the main administrator of your company's CAS 360 account to invite you as a user. And one of the very important steps when you're setting up your password and your access in CAS 360 is what we call this multi-factor authentication. So the multi-factor authentication is essentially an extra security enhancement for all user accounts. This is to ensure that the right user account is accessing onto your company's CAS 360 account. So you can set up based either in SMS or authentication app. I'm going to share this particular information as well, as this particular link will give you a bit of a guide if you need to change your MFA, especially if you're using your SMS, your phone for MFA, and either you lose your phone or you've decided to change to another mobile provider. There are a couple of things that you will need to do to make sure that you switch your MFA to another type of whether it's Google Authenticator or to your new mobile devices. And essentially, if you wish to switch from SMS to a Google Authenticator, for example, you can simply go to your app switcher on the top right of your screen, and you can see user over here. And under the users page, you have the ability to see which authentication app that you're using. So we always highly recommend users to use a authenticator app, whether it's a Google or Microsoft. So we recommend the ones in Google Authenticator app. The reason being is because it's much safer to use authentication app as compared to an SMS. This is for recommendations and best practice as well. Now, going back to CAS 360, so once you've set that up, you will now be able to bring you to log into the software and bring you to the main dashboard. So in the main dashboard, you will see all the companies that you have imported. If you have got the chance to import using our search registry, all those companies that you've imported from Accra through our search registry tool will appear in your company selections. Similarly, if you have added the company manually using a manual process like add company, or here, the section, all the companies that you set up will appear in this list as well. So before we go through the adding companies, I'm going to go through this section over here on the left-hand side. So this section is what we call navigation toolbar. So this is where you will locate all the different types of features and tools specifically for corporate compliance in CAS 360. So in the company, first one, in the company tab, you will see all the companies that you're managing. And each of that, you'll also be able to see other sub-tabs. We've got your company registration. This is where you can process company registration documents, your pre-incorp and post-incorporate documents, search registry, which essentially is your purchasing a business profile data equivalent from Accra onto CAS 360, and also dashboards. So this is where you can see to track how many documents that you can prepare, document types that you have prepared, and how many companies have you've added. Second one will be trust. So this one's a little bit more for Australia and New Zealand. If your company is managing trust for Australian companies, you can process it under this section. Next is your contacts. So contacts, this is where you can store all the contacts attached to your company, whether it's an individual, a corporate shareholder, or a auditor based on a company name. Joint member, if you have any joint member transactions, and other entity. In contacts, you also be able to store the global address, whether the address is a address in Singapore or another jurisdiction address. In the global address, when you create and select the company, or rather the country, it will automatically change the fields based on the country that you have selected as well. Here, the fourth icon over here is your returns. So in returns, this is where you can locate all the upcoming annual returns and AGM that you need to process based on your financial year and date filter over here. So I'm going to talk a little bit more on this on my level 2 session on Thursday, to how we navigate and manage your annual return and also the AGM documents in CAS 360. The next tool will be your multiples. So the multiple feature allows you to process documents for multi-company changes. Whether, for example, if you have a registered address changed or contact address changed, or even officers change. If, for example, you have a particular person who has multiple shareholding, rather office holdings to multiple companies across all your list of companies, you can do a bulk change of company change. This is particularly useful if, for example, you are the secretary for multiple companies and you need to do a bulk resignation to several companies in your list. This is a good and very useful tool to allow you to do a bulk change of secretary's position, whether it's appointing or resigning to multiple companies. So these feature, I'll cover this on level 2. So meanwhile, I'll just give you a bit of a little background. Next one is our freeform. So all the documents that are not processed within CAS 360, whether it's a agreement form or certain special resolutions, you can create and add this in your freeform document tab. So these feature, I'll cover this a little bit more on your level 2. Next is your Documents tab. So whenever you generate documents out of CAS 360, all this document will be stored in your global documents. So you can see you will have the company name, the file name based on the transaction that you have done, and you'll be able to see what type of transaction that has been processed in this particular folder with the document processed and exported out of CAS 360. So again, we're going to cover this in the last section on your lesson number 7 on how we navigate to locate all the documents exported out from CAS 360. Next is your messages. So messages are all the messages between applications, third-party applications that's connected to CAS 360, including any messages from Accra. It will actually be stored in your inbox. If you're also using digital signing, you've switched on your integration with other applications like your digital signing, all the message from that will be stored in your messages. Similarly, if you're sending out an email out from CAS 360 directly to your client, it will be stored in your messages under the outbox session. You got your reports. Next one, these are all your company reports. So in the reports, you'll be able to generate different types of managerial reports, including your company listings, your document status listing. You can also generate your registrable controllers and also your company registers. Lastly, your settings. So settings allows you to adjust different types of settings of what you can do in CAS 360, including your document templates, email templates, your email settings, signing or switching on your integration with digital signing, and also setting up your bulk AGM reminder to your client using our AGM reminder tool. This is also where you will need to set up your company's corpus so you can assign your firm as the registered filing agent whenever you set up or add in a new company onto CAS 360. So that's pretty much the navigation toolbar. Now, as I was going along the navigation toolbar, what you'll also notice that each of these will have subcategory tabs for each. So for example, in freeform, you've got your freeform documents and freeform templates. So freeform templates is where you will store your custom templates, and freeform document is where you create or prepare, rather you prepare the document. So all the prepared freeform documents will be shown and displayed over here. You also notice that some of them have what we call advanced filters. So for those of you just getting started, you might not be able to see it in your dashboard. If you're not able to see this, just make sure to check whether you have these particular arrow button over here, and you can simply expand that out so you can view all these advanced alerts. So an example over here is your company tab, advanced filter. So in advanced filter, you have the ability to filter based on a specific jurisdiction. If you're working on, for example, Singapore company, and you just want to view only Singapore company only, it will filter down to all your Singapore companies. You can see that it only shows my 67 Singapore companies and the rest is not on the list. What also happens in this particular jurisdiction filter is that it will also filter the type of alerts available specifically for that jurisdiction. So for example, if I were to reset the filter, you can see that it expands more items over here, like company debt alerts and so on. Now, because these ones are not applicable for Singapore, if I were to filter it to Singapore, it will be removed in my advanced filter list. So it'll filter down only the alerts applicable for a Singapore company, which is your annual returns, your annual review deadlines, your document deadline, and your AML CDD. So I'll cover these alerts on lesson number, rather your level 2 session on Thursday. So this is particularly important and useful when you're preparing your AGM and annual returns. Similarly, in context, we do have contact filters for you. So I'm going to cover this in a while and how we manage your contact details. What are these different functionality of this different type of filters? And again, your document alerts, we also have filters available as well. Right, so that is the navigation toolbar. Now, the next thing I want to cover is we're gonna put you bring your attention on the top right corner over here, this section over here, where my mouse is pointing. So this section is what we call Resource Hub. So the Resource Hub allows you to access to available online resources in CAS 360 to help you with every stage of your adoption journey, whether it's asking or getting help and assistance through our online resources like your support links. So earlier on this one, for example, I've got this particular link under my Singapore Help Guide. And again, this is accessibly available by simply clicking the question button on the top right, Get Help and Assistant, and select Singapore Help. Similarly, you can access through and connect with our live chat if you have any issues with some of the processes, or you want to ask a quick fire questions like the how-tos in CAS 360, you can simply click on the live chat to connect to our support chat. This is our Cassie. It will recommend you article based on the questions that you asked. And you can also choose if you wish to talk to a human, and it will collect you to our live support chat. And here in this section over here, you can also send our feedback. So a lot of times there are some features that may not be available within the software, some processes that's not available. You can simply share your feedback by clicking on the feedback button and send your wish list. So we call it the feature wish list. If there's something that you like our product to improve, or if you have comments, feedbacks, or if you're happy with the product, do share with us as well. I'll be happy to see your feedback about it. This particular feedback button actually goes to our product team. Everybody will see your feedback. So if you have been using the software and sending the feedback, they are able to see them and add your request in the development wish list as well. We do have the community channel. So this is where you can add in or start discussion on certain topics. And particularly, we do have some past videos on certain topics. So back then we were going through a lunch and learn session where we cover specific topics within the solution. So if you want a much more in-depth learning on specific topic, for example, documents and email customization, you'll be able to have the video recording found in your community channel as well. Similarly, we do have some video recordings on share transaction and registrable controller. Your digital signing, if you've forgotten how to set up your digital signing and you just want to know specifically how to set it up, you can find it on your in this section. So I'm going to share these resource as well in the webinar chat so that in case that you've got stuck in certain processes, whether it's setting up your company's digital signing or importing company from ACA, you can always come back to this webinars. So going back to my CAS 360. So another thing that you can use is this particular button over here called support. So if, for example, your live chat personnel wasn't able to answer your question, or it requires technical expertise to access to your account to investigate further, I will always recommend to always click on the support icon over here to log a ticket. So in CAS 360, you are able to log a support ticket whenever you're facing some technical issues or errors when you're processing certain documents, certain compliance items. So an example, if you were to ask for AGM, for example, simply type that in the search bar, and the first thing that the software will do is will recommend you articles pertaining to the keyword search that you've added in. Now, most of the time, the articles may not be able to answer what you're looking for. So what you can simply do is in the bottom of this page, you can see log a support call. This will then allow you to request the support to give you further assistance in regards to any error or fixes that requires an assistant with. So you can add in your, you can choose which correspondence, problem statement. Let's say, for example, I want to know more about BGL ID, for example, and I want to say, how can I, BGL ID, you can, and I can't see it my software, for example, if you're having that issue, you can simply just key in as much information as you can, all right, and then simply send. Now, a very good practice when you're sending a support assistance or request is first is that give as much context into the issue that you're facing, and then provide them a supporting document or screenshot so they will have a better understanding when they're investigating whatever issues or error that you're facing. You can also choose to switch on this toggle button. So essentially what this does is giving our support consultants a consent to access to your company's CAS 360 account so that they can further investigate the issue or the error that you are facing. A lot of times, usually what happens is when you have errors or you're facing somewhere along the data entry, there might be some error that you have added in during the data entry process. So usually that's what happens. So otherwise, you can always send us your request, as many information and context as possible, and send a supporting document, whether it's a document or a screenshot, so that our support team can investigate further. Once you've added those information, click send, and you will receive a numbered ticket, a ticket number with the Zendesk email. So our support, actually, we use what we call Zendesk. So this is an application where you can where we use our internal support processes. And as a user, whenever you log a support ticket or the live chat personnel logs a support ticket on your behalf, you will receive a Zendesk ticket number via email. I would also recommend you that the moment you receive that email, please do look out for it, because the support consultant will reach out to you through that ticket email to ask further questions and further investigation of your case. So do look out whenever you log a support ticket. Now, going back to this icon over here, just want to talk a little bit more on Singapore Help Guide. So Singapore Help Guide is essentially your online resources for your educational resource when you're adopting CAS 360 software as part of your workflow compliance. So you've got all the resources and contents available here. And we also post all the latest feature rolled out for the solution every alternate Thursday. So we've got rolled out sometime, I think, last week. And upcoming one, or rather the week before. And the upcoming one will be on the 27th, which is this Thursday. So every Thursday of alternate weeks, we will roll out new features and improvements within the software. So kind of like when you do a product update. And each of that, we will cover what are the features that you've added. So like, for example, 12 days ago on the 13th November, we've improved the core functionality. When we say core functionality, this applies to all jurisdiction, not just exclusively for Singapore, but also across all countries. And we also have improvements per jurisdiction. So for example, over here, what we have rolled out is the BGL integrations. As you know, some of you might have had a look at it previously. Sometimes we switch off this feature and sometimes we switch it back for user to use it, because it's a couple of months we've been trying to improve the whole functionality and workflow for BGL ID. So now you're able to use, if you're not able to see the BGL ID integration on your contacts page or your compliance tab, do reach out to us and we can switch on and make sure that that particular feature is available. For BGL ID integrations, I'm not going to go through this that much, but what I'll do is I'll share this article as well for those of you who would like to try out this feature. This is our AML, or what rather our email screening feature embedded into our software. So if you actually go onto your contacts page, you should be able to see this particular feature over here that allows you to run a ID verification and email screening of that particular contact. So this is essentially useful, for example, before you even onboard the client, you can add their information under global contact, run the verification check to confirm, and then you can start onboarding them. Now, going back to my CAS 360 support hub over here. So there's a lot of very useful contents around here, especially when you're getting started. Whether it's learning how to manage the bank accounts, add in the addresses. So for example, if you want to add in the registered office address, the location of the registers, this is particularly useful, especially if the location of your registrable controllers and nominee shareholders is not in the registered filing agent address register. And you can just simply go through this features so you can learn how to navigate different tools and feature within the system. So I won't be sharing this link as this, again, this link is very accessible within your help guide over here. It's on the top right and simply click on Singapore Help. All right. Now, before we moved on, so last thing I want to go through, which is essentially very important as a user, is what we call these digital app switcher over here. So when you are logging, so I think I might have some settings over here. Okay, so you should be able to see my logo over here. Hopefully it works. So I'm just going to close this for a second. Okay, so might have some browser issue at this stage. Yeah, okay. So when you're in the main dashboard, you'll see this particular dots, like square dots on the very top right corner of your screen. So when you click on that, this is what we call the app switcher. So app switcher allows you to switch between application in the whole BGL ecosystem, whether it's your My BGL integration, especially if you want to set link up your DocuSign or Adobe Sign or other digital signing that you have signed within My BGL, learning channels, and also your users. For Singapore, the most important is these three over here. All right. Now, I mentioned earlier on that when you're starting with the software, you will receive two emails. One is My BGO, and the other one is Welcome to CAS 360. So just to give you a bit of an overview what My BGO is about. Now, My BGO is your administrative portal with BGO. When you purchase a software product with BGL, you will receive an access to this My BGL account. This is to allow you to manage all your BGL subscription products, your billings, contacts, find out the product information. Also, when will your product expire? If you need to upgrade your license to additional 5 or 10 company slots, especially if you're running out, you can do the upgrade within the MyBGL. You can also set up your payment details. So for example, if you wanted to use the BGL ID features, one of the things that you'll need to do is to set up the payment details to enable you to use that feature. If the software is not able to detect any payment details, it means it has not been set up in your MyBGL. So do let your account owner know on this if you want to start using the BGL ID features. Similarly, if you want to start using the Accra import tool, where you can purchase the business profile directly from Accra and onboard it onto CAS 360 directly, you will need to set up the payment details to enable this feature in your CAS 360. And most importantly, if, for example, you have cases where your company has changed to another location or did a rebranding, change the company name, you can simply update it under MyBGL in your dashboard section. We always recommend that it will be the users of responsibility to update the information, as we want to make sure that we are keying the right information that's linked to that company. Also for security reasons as well, want to make sure that the person that is editing this company information are working for your firm and they have admin rights or they have access rights to MyBGL. So for example, if your company moved to another office and you need to update the billing details, you can simply update those information under your MyBGL dashboard. Another thing that I want to highlight as well is cases a scenario where the account owner this is no longer in the company, or if you're moving the account ownership to another person, there's new person taking over the admin account for MyBGL and CAS 360. You can change the whole account ownership again under the dashboard, and you can see over here, change account owner. So this will prompt you as a user that to key in who is the new account owners, setting up the verification code, and also prompting whether the previous account owner you would like this person to still have access. So generally, you wouldn't allow this person to have access anymore, especially if the this particular account owner left the company. So you can just select remove access to all across all products within the firm. So just take note of that. Now, to go back to your CAS 360, let's assume that I accidentally closed my CAS 360. So you can always switch back to your software by simply, again, going to your app switcher and selecting CAS 360. And this will bring you back to the dashboard. All right. So before anything else, and before I continue and proceed, any questions so far? All right. So I'm gonna just repost my note again earlier on because I think some few people have just joined in a little bit later. So again, a quick reminder, if you have any questions, kindly post it in the Q&A section of your Zoom toolbar, as this session is recorded, and also all the attendees will be on mute. If you want to preview this copy of this particular manual, this is very, very useful. You can go to your Zoom webinar chat. I've posted that link available for everyone as well. All right, so going back, now before I can move into setting up notification over here, I also want to touch on this section over here. This is what we call global search function. So in the global search function, it will allow you to search for companies, contacts, documents, trust stored in CAS 360. So for example, if I am searching for a company, it will automatically search through my entire solution to see if, based on the keyword that I've typed in, if they can locate that company. So I've got CAS Singapore over here. Also 28 July CAS 360 Training Singapore. And when you click on that, it will bring you automatically to the profile that you're searching for. Similarly, if you're looking for a contact, so let's say I want to look for Andy Tam. You can see over here I have two Andy Tam. So you can just click on, I'm going to select one, and this will bring me automatically to Andy Tam's profile under the contacts page. So this is the easy way to navigate a company or contacts or documents as well. You can type in, for example, for documents, you can put in the trace number. Example over here. So in the documents, we label or we recognized it based on the trace number, as it's much easier that way. And you can simply click the trace number, the search based on trace number, and it will bring you to that particular document you're searching for. All right. Also, something to highlight for each page, you will also notice in companies, contact, your returns page. All right. So mostly company, contacts, trusts, if you're managing trust. What you'll notice is that this section over here called search. Now, how is it different from these? So unlike the global search, this specific search is only available specific for that page that you are in. So for example, because this search is under my company selection, so I'm only able to search based on the company that I type. Similarly, for example, if I go to my contacts and I want to, instead of using this, I want to see, let's say, Andy Tam. And earlier on, I have two records of Andy Tam, so you can see that you have different types of records. The big difference in here is that unlike the ones me typing in Andy Tam on the global search, it won't show me the full information of Andy Tam. Whereas in the contacts page and in its search engine specific for global contact, it will display not only the name of that particular person I'm looking for, but it will also display this information. So you can see some of the information didn't match. So it might be a different Andy Tam. It may look similar, but sometimes it may be a duplicate or it may not be a duplicate. It just happened to be, two different persons, two different credentials. So just take note of that. So this is very, very useful when you're searching specific for that category, whether it's a company, contacts, or like returns. then you should be able to search it quite easily as well. It will filter down the list for you. So that's the difference between the global search and the sub-search category in each of the feature tools. Now, next I want to go through is your notification toolbar. So notification toolbar, all the content can be found on your page 20 of your manual as well. So if you are looking through the manual, you can just simply click onto that as well. This is the section. It's on your page 20. So going back to the top right corner of your screen, you will see this bell icon right over here. We call it the notification. So all the messages between third-party applications integrated in CAS 360, whether it's with Accra or with the digital signing platform that we have two-way integration with, you will see all the notification over here. So you can see an example that's like an example over here, whether a document has been digitally signed by all the signing partners, who has signed them, whether you're downloading a company registers documents that has been rejected. So all these notification coming out in your bell icon is linked up into your messages. So if I were to click on messages, you see that the message and the notification are quite similar. So again, you can filter based on unread alerts, today's alert, last month, and this month's alert as well. Now, going back to your notifications, you have 3 tabs available over here. It can show you which ones are unread. So for example, if I want to read this particular alert, I can mark it as read. You can also archive the message as well. For alerts like digital signing, if you are syncing up your Adobe Sign or your DocuSign enterprise account to CAS 360, CAS 360 will be able to notify you through an alert, and you'll be able to click on the alert to bring you specifically to that document file with the digital signing. So this is one of the examples. Now, in the notification section, you also have the ability to adjust the settings. So earlier on, I mentioned that in CAS 360, you're able to set up your account to receive email notification. All right. So to set that up, you can simply click on or switch on the toggle button, receive email reminders from CAS 360. And this will allow you to enable which are the alerts that you like to receive via email from CAS 360. So here, for example, I'm going to switch off these annual reviews. Let's assume I'm not managing any Australia companies. And I will just want to receive all the Singapore ones. For example, anything that is AGM meeting due date past, upcoming AGM, financial year end, annual returns, failed emails. Just going to switch off these ones as well. And I can also set whether I want to receive this reminder whether it's daily, weekly, and fortnightly. So daily, you can set as many, whether every single day, or you can switch off, for example, one of the days, either Tuesday, Thursday, you don't want to receive those reminder, or you can also switch to weekly as well, whichever a day in the week, or fortnightly. So any alternate. You also have the ability to adjust when to receive those emails on your local timing. So this actually follows your local timing. If you want to receive those alerts, let's say only at 10 a.m. in the morning, every Thursday, you can simply change the timing as well. And you can also switch whether to receive based on whole firm, only favorite labels, companies, or both. So I'll talk a little bit more on only favorite companies labels. So essentially, if you have if you star them, you select them as favorite label companies, those are companies, and you will receive notification only for those. And once you set that up, you can click Save Settings. So if I were to save this adjustments, I will receive, let's say, if I want to do it weekly, every Thursday of the week, I'll receive a notification at 10 a.m. in the morning, Singapore time. So give you an example of how a reminder will look like when you set that up in CAS 360. So give you an example. It will look something like this. So you can see right over here, hope everybody can see, you receive an email from no reply at CAS 360 because I've set it to a weekly CAS 360 summary coming from Gen Training. So Gen Training is the name of my company. So essentially it will be your company's name appearing on this header, and it will display you have how many notification based on the alerts that you have switched on. So I have switched on these ones. You can see that I have, this is one of the old reminders. So I've got annual return dues. I've got financial year-end date approaching. It will also give you a bit of a summary as well of the companies. And you can simply prompt you to log into CAS 360 to bring you to those to CAS 360 to process them. Right, so that's for email notifications. So if you want to receive email notification from CAS 360, you can set them under the bell icon settings. All right. So before I proceed, any questions so far with this particular topic, an email subscription? All right, so the email subscription content can be found on the page 23 of your manual for those of you who are going through the manual as well. If you want to remember on this, you can always refer to the manual as well. Now, the next topic I want to go through is on your page 26 of your manual, setting up a registered filing agent. Now, previously, before Accra did a bit of a change or overall revamp of their whole Accra API marketplace and also the BizFile transactions, CAS 360 has a integration with Accra's lodgement process. So you were back then we were able to allow our users to lodge their annual returns and also share transactions as well. But because with the recent changes they rolled out last year, December, the whole entire process has changed. So these particular feature is not available at the moment. Essentially, what the registered filing agent allows you to do is that when you're lodging annual return or share transaction from CAS 360 by pushing the data to Accra, you will be required to add in your registered filing agent. Now, some very good news. Accra just told us, give us a bit of an update that they are restarting this whole project again to allow us to integrate with them and allow our users to lodge their data changes, whether it's annual return lodgements or company changes. They're going to allow the users to lodge those information directly from CAS 360 instead of having to log into Accra's website to fill up the same information already recorded into the software, right? And that will require users, the company's corpus to be set up within the software so that they will know, and also for security reasons, they will need to know which corpsec is lodging onto their database for lodgement through the CAS 360 software. Now, also one of the things is very important about setting up the registered filing agent, or essentially your corpus here. For Singapore's case, it would be corpus, is that when you are preparing the annual returns and you need to disclose the location of the registers of registrable controllers and also the nominee shareholder at your registered office, the RFA's registered address, you are able to disclose a particular sentence which prompt the annual return reports to disclose that, hey, this is the location of the registrable controller and nominee shareholder is located at the registered filing agent's address. So before I show that and how that it displays, so I'm going to show to you how we set up a registered filing agent, or for Singapore's case, it will be the corpus under your settings and lodgement agent settings. First, you will need to click on the agent. Automatically, it will select Singapore. And here at the beginning, you will not be able to see your corpus. So let's say I'm the registered filing agent. And I don't have that information stored yet. So I can simply select these add new. And in CAS 360, you have the ability to set up the contact details directly, automatically, without having to go to the contacts page or the contacts tool. So here, most importantly, when you're setting up your corpus information, you will need to switch the company type to company. This will prompt you to select the place of incorporation, the email, date of incorporations. Make sure to select the UEN number and your registered filing address. So I'm not going to create one. I'll just leave it as it is. So I'll just show you one example over here. So because this particular company, I've already created this and it's already stored automatically in my global contacts so that if I were to search this company again, it will always come out in my list because it's already saved into my CAS 360. After which you will also be prompted to still select the agent's address. So similarly, if the agent address, let's say it's Shanghai, for example, or you have an address that's not pulling out from your global's list, a global address, you can simply set up that address on the spot and add it into your global's address. Now I'm just going to keep it as it is. So let's say this is the address. Now, because this feature is not available yet, this has been switched off. So you can simply click on Save Only. So let's go back to my company and just going to do one of the company over here, just to demonstrate how the address of the registered filing agent will try to match up the location of the registered CAP stored in the company's database. So for this case, this is a Cherry Team company. There are already information over here. So you can see this is the registrable controller's location of the registered CAP. So by default, when you're preparing annual return reports, it will display the full address of the location of the registered CAP, right? But for example, if I were to change my location of the registered CAP into another location, let's say 5 Changi Business Park, which was what we have selected for the registered filing agent, you can see that that already updates the system. And by the time when I need to prepare the annual returns for that company, let's say Charity, and this is a very quick preparation. I'll cover this on level 2. You can see that in the annual return reports, it will display that the registered office address file, the registered office of the registered filing agent appointed by the company. This will display automatically. Because the address in the address page of that company and the address of the registered filing agent match, so automatically the system will change and disclose these sentences instead. Now closing, I'm just going to close this one over here. Now, how do I make sure that the location of the address of my corpus address and the ones stored in the company's address tab is similar? So what you'll need to make sure of is that this is a very important step, is that when you are in the general details, you will see what we call registered filing agent. So you can simply search for that your corpus that you have set up and stored and saved, and simply select that. So CAS 360 in Singapore is my registered filing agent, and therefore, because I've already assigned a RFA, which is my my corpus information, it detects the address stored over here, which is 5 Changi Business Park, similar to the address of my corpus, and therefore it changes what it discloses in your annual return report. So just take note. So this is pretty very, very best practice. When you are setting up a new company, make sure first is to set up your corpus information in your lodgement agent settings and set up your location of your nominee directors and shareholders similar to your corpus, and ensure that select your corpus as the registered filing agent. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go through a little bit more on the address a bit later. So any questions so far in setting up the registered filing agent and assigning registered filing agent in CAS 360? All right. If now we're going to go to the next topic, which is inviting users. Now, as part of onboarding onto CAS 360, it's very important to invite other users to access to your company's account. Now, if you are the account owner or the administrator, so for us, what we call administrator is account owner. If you're the master account owner, you'll need to invite your other team members to access to the software so that they can start using the solution. So to invite other user, simply go to your app switcher, and this time around, we're going to select users. So this will open another tab into your browser, and you can see you've got the user's profile. And again, earlier on, I mentioned about the MFA. This is where you can enable and disable your old MFA to another MFA. And on the section over here, as an account owner, you have full administrative rights to adding or inviting other users, managing the users, role settings, product settings, and also your token. So this is particularly important as well. If you need to migrate some data, there's a migration tool. This is for the client success team to access to your account. And similarly, if you want to explore using our XBRL tool, as you know, we do have an XBRL preparation tool available in CAS 360. You will need to generate the code to access that particular preparation tool. Now, going back to administration, so we're going to learn how to invite users in CAS 360. So first, in your users page, go to admin and select invitation. Here, it will show you the page. If you already invited the user, you will see who have been invited, joined, and such. Expired or cancel. You can filter them based on these categories. And to invite other users, simply click on invite other users. And let's say at bglcorp.com.sg. You'll need to pin the email address. And this particular section over here is very important. So if you're an account owner, please take note on this when you're inviting other users. So I mentioned earlier that there's a big difference between MyBGL CAS 360. So again, a refresher, MyBGL is your administrative portal to manage your BGL products. CAS 360 is the software. So because we'll be launching a couple of new products software as well in CAS 360, you will see another section over here. The one that will be launching is Smart Docs. You will get to see that feature. So this is to allow you to manage who to invite or which where they can be invited to. For users for CAS 360, it's important to be not only invited for the software, but also my BGL, right? So I'm gonna talk a bit more why this is important because of the training. So here I will have here my type of user, so I can select whether account only, admins, if I want this person to have also admin rights, admin manager, and so on. Some of these user settings, user roles, I've set them up, so I'm gonna cover this in a while. So let's say I want this to be also um, my admin as well on my behalf. Now, this one is your access to the software. So as an account owner, you have to ensure that not only that they have access to the MyBGL portal, but also access to the software itself. So you can select which users that you like. If you want to be the manager, you can simply add that in. You can also add in multiple users if you have multiple team members that needs to access to my BGM CAS 360. You can just do them invite and click invite. Now, something to take note with these ones. So when you are selecting, you need to make sure that all the informations are complete and true, as it will prompt you that sometimes if there's an error to that email address, you won't, the user that you invite, they might not be able to receive that. So just take note of that. Now, mentioned earlier on, my BGL, it's very important for account owners to invite other users to access this. Reason being is that things like training, like today's training, the only way to be able to register for the training is going to my BGL. So all users must have an access to my BGL so that they can register for the training. So if you have upcoming trainings, you can simply select other trainings, web, and if, for example, you're missing out on the Tuesday, rather the Thursday session for my level 2, we do have availability in the February. So this, unfortunately, this is my last training of the year. So I will resume back the training on the 24th of Feb and 26th of Feb, respectively. So if you want to register for next year's training, you can register now through your MyBGL. And if you are one of the users and you can't seem to register for the training, and you see that in your app switcher, it doesn't show up your MyBGL logo. If you don't see the MyBGL, let's say if I'm in my CAS 360, I don't see this on my interface, it means that your account owner has not invited you to access to MyBGL. So please let your account owner know. Highlight to them to invite you on MyBGL so you can sign up for my upcoming trainings. Now, going back to my apps switcher and selecting my users. So that's how we invite other users. So in the users, because I don't have any particular users as well at the moment, now I'm just going to quickly show to you on my manual the users. So when you invite users and they accept, sometimes the user might have missed out that email and and they prompt you, let's say you are the account owner and one of your users, they've forgotten to activate it and it's already expired after 5 days, you can simply re-invite them again by clicking re-invite. So in each of those invited users, if it's already expired or cancel or you accidentally cancel, you can simply click re-invite. And those users, they will receive an email with a welcome to my BGL and welcome to CAS 360 to set up their username, rather they set up their password and also their MFA to access both my BGL and CAS 360 software. Now, going back to my users page, so now that we've invited other users, we can also manage the role settings. So earlier on, if you recall, when I was inviting other users, there are different type of roles that you can select. So in CAS 360, we do have a default settings that you can find. If you want to find out all user roles, what the user role can do, you can simply go to our getting started guide. Each of the roles will have different types of categories. So for example, an accountant, they're not able to add or edit companies over here. If you set one of your team members to have a user role as an accountant, and they have struggled to add in new company, this because that their setting has by default not allowing them to add companies. So again, for account owners, please take note of that. I'm going to share these details into the webinar chat just to make sure that you are giving the correct admin rights to your users as well. Now, these user role settings can be adjusted as well. So I'm going to go back to my user role over here. So under, again, user page admin, we have what we call role settings. So here you can switch between applications, whether it's CAS 360 and MyBGL. Most importantly, you want to set up the role setting for CAS 360 and you can assign a role. So we have different types of default roles. We've got an accountant, admin. We also have a manager and view only. So as an account owner, you have the ability to switch on and off the toggle button to limit the access in certain areas of the software. So for example, in accountant over here, it's not able to edit anything. So you can only see messages screen, settings screen, and such. So if, for example, you don't want the accountant to see the message screen, you can switch off the toggle button as well. Now, now in the role settings, you have the ability to add in other new roles type as well. So I've got an example over here. This is one of example from one of my clients that they have different types of team members who does different tasks. So one team A does the add the company data, and then team B does the whole processing of documents. So each of the team, they have designed it in such a way that they will be the one preparing the documents, adding in. So team B is preparing, searching and all that. But they don't have any, for example, modifications, preparing company documents. They're not allowed to do that, for example. So you can create different types of your own custom role settings by simply clicking on Add New on the top right, and you can see right over here. Let's say I want to set theme. and you can adjust the type of settings that you like. So let's assume user manager, I don't want my I want them to have limited access rights. I want them to have I don't want them to access to role management as well. I still want them to be able to use the XBRL, right? And digital signing, and the rest of it I shall allow them to do. You can also, for example, maybe in this CorpSec team, you don't want them to be able to adjust the settings as well, especially if you want to be able to be the only person managing the settings like your filing agents, your bulk AGMs and such. You can just simply switch off that. It's really up to you how you want to set your save role settings and click save. So that when you are assigning a role for a particular users, you can now select this new custom role settings for that particular user. If you want to remove this role settings, you can just delete the role as well. So that's for role settings. Now, in the same page as well, as an account owner, you have the ability to manage the user accessing onto the solution. So you can see right over here, I've got Amy Mac as one of the users. I've also got another person, Andy Tam, has access to my solution. And when you click onto each of the profile, you will see that it will display which when did they log in. So it's a little it's what we call like a mini log trail where you can view when was the last time this user logged, right? So if I, for example, I can just click on expand, click on this particular user, this will actually show to me which application they have access to. So I can see that Amy Mac has access to CAS 360 and my BGL as well. And in this section over here, you can see that Amy is also an admin on this my CAS 360 account, but only a user in my BGL. Now, you can simply expand as well to show more details. For example, I can disable this account by switching off the toggle button. If I no longer want them to have access, I can switch off. Similarly for CAS 360. Now, this is particular very useful, especially when you have other users who left the company. So, for example, let's say Amy has already left the firm. So I no longer want them to have access. This is very useful, especially for security reason. You don't want them to be accessing it if, let's say, one of the IT team members forgotten to disable this email. You, as the account owner, you can just simply enable that. All right. Okay. So I'm having a bit of a Technical difficulties. Hold on a second. All right. Hope, hope it didn't logged out. All right. So going back on this topic, if you have other users that's left the company, it's a good practice to switch off and remove this particular contact so that they no longer have access to your software as well. So I can just simply, if they're completely, for example, they're on leave, you can disable them temporarily. But if the person already left the company, you can simply remove the user. This is a good practice when you have team members leaving the firm as well. All right. So going back to CAS 360, so I'm just going to close a few companies over here. Any questions so far? Now, this session is recorded, and in the next couple of days, we will send you rather a much more clean up copy of this recording. So do look out for that. But do post your questions if you have any questions. Please send it through. All right. Okay. So that's pretty much the basic of starting using the software in the beginning part, getting started, familiarizing yourself in different types of tools and features. So the next lesson that we're going to learn is on your lesson number 2 on loading companies onto CAS 360. So this is one of the fundamental features into the software, which allows you to store your company's or your client's information, company information, business information, including processing the incorporation and company registration. Now, there's few ways to onboard your client onto CAS 360. One of which is adding the company manually. So if you already have an existing client and you want to just simply add them manually, you can add the company over here. Automatically, it pulls add new company. And let's say, for example, like green leaves. Private Limited. Type in your UN number, incorporation date. Here you can automatic also select the filing agent, which is a good practice. And if you have the labels, you can add in the labels. So we'll talk a little bit more later on how to set up labels. So here, once I click save, what will happen is that you can see that green leaves in this list, and you can simply click on the green leaves to continue populating the rest of the information. So you've got your general details and populate, let's say, your annual return dates. If the annual return is a different date, you can just simply add it, change the financial year end date, and then switch that back. So, for example, if I want my financial year end date will be 31st, example, and I can simply recalculate the annual return and the next AGM using this calculator line. I can also fill up the rest of the information. Let's say if this company is a dormant company, automatically it's exempted. If it's not non-exempted, just simply change the company type. Also the type of company, company class. If it's a small group company, simply select that as well under your company subclass. And you can see you can store all the rest of the information over here, whether it's the registered registered address, your officers, shareholders, and company information as well. So this is a manual way of adding companies. Now, the second one that you can add your company's information is through company registration. So this scenario is essentially when you have a new client engaging you to be the CorpSec to process the company registration. CAS 360 allows you to input the company registration data and also process the documents along the way. So here what we'll do is we're going to register a new company. Here I'll select Singapore, and automatically you can see on your company registration details, you've got a registration journey. These are the fields that you're required to fill up for Singapore, and each of the field, it will show to you what items that you can add in. And what you'll notice as well is that every time you go to the next data fields, it will show to you that, oh, some of the items over here has not been added in. So it will prompt you that you need to add in this information. So here I'm just gonna add in the latest our company. So I'll put in today's date. Like that. So in your activity code, you can simply type in the type whether based on the activity code provided by Accra or the title itself. And if you have any instructions over here, additional description, for example, this is accounting and audit, tax services as well. You can add that in. If you have secondary activity, you can add in secondary as well. For example, you can add that. And you can simply click next. So here I've got my registered address. So if I have another address, for example, Yunus, and I can't find this particular address, again, you can simply add the new address on the spot. So anything that you add or create on the spot will be saved into your global address. So here, by default, it will select a Singapore address, block number. So this particular very important to fill up all this information for Singapore, otherwise you will get an error. So let's say I'm gonna have Yunus. And what's great about creating an address in CAS 360 is we've linked up with Google Address to help you search for the address and create the address automatically into the system. So if you see an example over here earlier on, I type in Kaki Yunus Technolink Kaki Bukit, right? So automatically it will pull out your street name. Now, the only thing with these with the Google one is that it will not pull out specifically the building. it only pulls out the street name. The reason being is because sometimes the building might change, the property group might change, whoever owns that particular that building will change or rebrand, for example. So it only pulls out the specific street name. Now, if you want to add in additional informations like your building, for example, you can simply type in techno technolink. And instead of selecting these, you can see that if I select it, it just disappeared. What you can do is simply put your mouse onto the space, click on it, and what will happen is that it will start, let's say, technolink. So instead of selecting that, simply click your mouse onto the space, and this will then become a free text. So here I'll just put in 0505, my unit number. This is particularly important. And click Save. So we'll fill up the rest of the details over here just to demonstrate how we do a company registration data onto CAS 360. So here we'll appoint a new officer. Automatically, it will display the information of that selected contact. I will just simply select as a director for the company. You can also assign this whether it's a chairperson. So here I'll add another particular contact as well. David James will be, you can see that if they don't have any information, the system will prompt you that you need to add in this information. So I've got over here David James. It doesn't have any contact address. It does have the residential. However, we didn't select any contract address. So let's assume that the contact address is residential is the same. So just select that in and click Save. Next, we'll add in our shareholder. So here, I'm just going to select in James Chan. And if you have a corporate shareholder, for example, let's say I will use another firm. This is a corporate shareholder for an example. You can skip this part if there's no subclass. Automatically, it select a Singapore jurisdiction. If it's using another currency, you can just simply select which currency you like. I'll put in 1,000. Let's say I'm gonna open it like 100 shares. Automatically, it will issue the first certificate. And you can have options on the payables as well and what type of meeting status. So I'm just gonna by default select as an attendee. And if this company has an auditor, you have assigned an auditor, you can simply add the auditor as well. All right. Or you can simply just if it doesn't have any auditor for the first year, you can just skip that as well. Now, the Constitution, we do have a system default model based on the company type that you have selected. It will automatically recommend you a model constitution for a company limited by shares. Now, if your company is using a custom constitution template, you can simply click on custom and you can upload your own documents over here. So you can just browse or anything. I'm just going to download some, for example, over here. And you have your registrable controller. So this is where you can process your registrable controller for this company as well. So we've added in this feature as well. And click save and click next. So what you'll see over here is the summary of what you have entered for your company registration. So now that you've added in, so sometimes when the whole process is incomplete, let's say you don't have the full details of one of the officers, or you don't have the address as of yet, you can always click save and close and come back to it. So you can see that the status will be not registered. You do have the pre-incorp already ready to process. And if you want to go back again, to edit the information, you can always go to Option tab, Edit, and go to the necessary field that you'll need to change. So for example, if I want to change the location to maybe, again, Changi Business Park, you can select that and click Save and Close. Now, once you're ready, when you go all the way to finish, it will prompt you to save and prepare. So if these informations are true and correct, you are now ready to prepare the documents. So click Save and Prepare. And this will bring you to this page called Document Production. So in CAS 360, this is something that you will get a lot, and you'll be more familiar when you are doing a company change, whether it's a change of officers, company registration, share transaction, or even your AGM documents. CAS 360 will bring you to this page called Document Production. So I'll give you a bit of summary on this. We'll cover this a bit more in a later stage of our training today. So essentially, on the left-hand side of your document production, it will show and display what kind of company transaction you're doing, like the corporate action you're doing for this company. So for this case, this is a incorporation of a company. So incorporating 25th November trading. And on the main dashboard on the right-hand side, you can see these are the company or the documents that you are required to prepare in relation to this change on the left-hand side. So what you'll notice as you play around and use the software, you'll notice that on your left-hand side, you have a lot of company changes to process. And what it does is that the system will consolidate all those documents in relation to company changes that appear right over here. So we'll give you a bit more example in a later stage, but essentially what it does is that it will pull out the documents required for that company action that you're doing. So for this case, we are preparing a pre-incorporation document. So CAS 360 will provide you a company registration summary. You can get your authorized person, the signatory, to sign and confirm on behalf of everyone. You have your consent to act as a director. And you can see what's great about processing these documents in CAS 360 is that because you've stored or fill up the data fields in CAS 360, CAS 360 will push those information onto your documents and ACRA forms. So this saves a lot of time when it comes to filling up your forms, as you no longer have to manually add those in. So you simply add in those data onto this software, and CAS 360, by a click of a button, it will push those information onto respective field, like your names, residential, contact, and our IC. So you need to make sure that these information are complete before you can generate those documents. Similarly, we have another consent to act as a director right over here, Veronica Tan. And in document production, you have the ability to preview these documents like what we're doing right now. So you can simply click on consent to act as a secretary. Again, it fills up the field that needs to be filled up in your ACRA forms based on the data that you have input into that company. What you'll also notice is that the documents are quite simple. We made it very basic and simple so that this allows you as a user to customize your text. Now, customization, I'll cover this topic more on lesson number level 2 on Thursday. So we'll cover a topic on, we'll do a bit of a basic customization and how you can add in your custom text onto CAS 360. Now, for now, we're just going to go through what are the documents what we can prepare based on the various changes that we can do inside CAS 360. So here we've got the applications of shares. And because you've set up your registrable controller, so you've got your notice mentioned for registrable controller as well. So earlier on, because we uploaded our own custom template, you can just you can preview your custom constitution and preview them as well. Now, once you're ready with the all documents, I'm just going to switch off my digital signing. So I'll cover this again on Thursday. So these documents, you are now ready to export them out and send to your client for signing, or you can send them directly to your client through your CAS 360. So for now, I'm just going to click download all just to let you see how the document will appear. It will be in one single document PDF file. And you can see right over here, these are the documents for the pre-incorporation documents. Now, if I were to go back to my CAS 360 and re-prepare that document again, so I'll just type in 25th November. So you can always come back and reprint. Let's say, oh, I missed out one of the documents, one of the forms. You can simply click on prepare documents. And if you need, for example, to switch on this particular, include this in one of your documents, you can simply do that as well. So by default, some of these forms are switched out. These are old ACRA forms. If you don't use it, or if it's not part of your practice, you can retain this as switch off. Otherwise, if you used it, you can just simply select which of those forms that you want to be part of your document. So again, you can just simply download all and just switch off these for now. And click download all. So again, it will export out a PDF copy. So you can see these were the documents that the new set of documents to prepare. If I were to scroll the way down, I will see another form. It's form 24. And then my notice for registrable controller. All right, so going back to my CAS 360, you can see that because I've exported out the document for pre-incorporation, you can see that the status now has switched to awaiting registration. Okay, so earlier it was not registered yet. They're not pending. And you can actually filter on your left-hand side all registrations. And if you want to filter companies that are no registration, you'll be able to see it in your list as well. I'm having a bit of some issue at the moment. Yeah. So you'll see these are the 9 awaiting registration. So when it comes to awaiting registration, it means that we haven't got our UN number yet. Therefore, it hasn't been registered. It's still waiting. Even if we process the pre-incorporations, it's still waiting to be registered. So in the practice for ACRA is that they understood that a company is registered company when there's already a UN number assigned for that company. Now, going back to these, so you also have an option if you want to prepare the post-incorporation as well. So a lot of times there are few service provider, they both want to generate both documents. You can do that. However, the only thing that you'll need to make sure is that you will have to put in a dummy UN number. So for example, I'll put in this dummy information first. The reason why we don't allow preparing both documents at the same time is that by default, we need to follow ACRA's laws and regulation that a company is only considered registered company when they already assigned a UN. It's in their record, and therefore you can only process those documents. So I'll assume that it's been incorporated today. I'm just gonna add in another. Hopefully it's not adding in. Yeah. Okay, so just add in a dummy UN number. And what it does is that this will then prompt you and allow you to prepare your post-incorporation documents. You can see right now that again, it's related to the incorporation of document, but for this time now, It's preparing your post incorporation. That will include your first director minutes and resolution. So this one can be customizable in CAS 360. You have your register of registrable controllers. You have your extraordinary members minutes and resolution. And also your share certificate. So depending on all those confirmed data informations for your pre-incorp, it will follow through and prepare all this necessary documentation. Now, what you'll notice as well in this whole process is that sometimes in your post-incorporation document, you are required to prepare the resolution of opening bank account. And what you'll notice is that in this company, it doesn't have that resolution, right? The reason being is because there's no opening of bank account along your company registration process. So how do we process and how do we get this resolution? So simply what you'll need to do is that because the company now is registered in a status, it will automatically be stored in your company selection and therefore take up your company slots. So just take note of that. So what you'll notice in company registration is that companies that are awaiting for registration, they are not taking up your license slot. So they're not in your, if I were to type in 28 October, for example, it's not on my list. It's not on my company selection. Similarly, if I were to type it here, you'll see that it's not on my list. It's not part, therefore, it's not taking up my license slots. Now, once they have been changed to registers, automatically this company will be transferred to your company selection. So let's type in 25th November. And what you see that this company is now in my company selection. So all the information that I've set up during my pre-incorporation and confirm during my post-incorp, it will populate into this company's profile. So including the UN. Now, if this company you've keyed dummy data for the UN, for example, for the purpose of generating the post-incorp documents, you can simply go inside under general details, simply change the UN number into the confirm UN number, for example, and click save. So here I'll just put in the register filing agent as well. And to add in your prepare your documents for a opening of bank account resolution, you will need to select your relationship over here, or rather company info. Over here. So under relationship, you have the ability to add in your auditors, your data protection officer, if you're required to disclose that, liquidator, local agents, and so on. So for this case, because we need to prepare the resolution for opening a bank account, and therefore we first need to add in the information of the bank account for this company. So I'm going to select bank account. Here, I will just select in one of the bank that I have already created. Let's say end of November. Company type. So I'm just going to add in dummy information here. If you have any additional details, you can add in as well. I will just have Veronica done and click save. So this information has already been stored into the company's profile. So what we'll do is we're going to go back to the company and select company registration and search for 25th November. So what we want to do is that to produce the resolution of opening a bank account as part of your post incorporation. So here I will select my post incorporation documents, and you can see in the document set that your post incorporation documents will now include your opening of bank account resolutions. So this is how we enabled the opening of bank account resolution to appear in your post incorporation documents if you're required to process this document. All right. Now, before I proceed to the next process on how onboarding a company, loading companies, any questions so far on this topic? Right. Otherwise, I'm going to go straight to the next alternative way of onboarding a company data, which is on your page 47 of your manual, importing company data from ACA. So in the company tab, you will see the third sub tab over here called search register. The search register allows you to search for a company registration and the business file equivalent data and purchase those data onto CAS 360. So again, we've got different filters. So you can filter based on what has been downloaded, what has been imported. So I'm just going to add in, you can see that these are an example of what we have imported. All right. And so I'm just going to delete one of these companies. So just scroll on. Right. So one of the things in the search registry is that there are two ways to do that. One is when you set up and select add company, you will see this feature. So you can either automatically do that during the adding the company process, or you can do it in your search registry. Personally, this is my preferred method because you can search for the company and you can also do a bulk search. If you are importing bulk numbers of companies from Accra onto your CAS 360, you can do that in search registry. So companies that, for example, extracted like Little Sunshine over here, when you extract a document, it's not through the search registry method, it doesn't automatically get saved in your company selection. All right? It won't take up the license slot. Whereas if you were to add a company directly and switch on this toggle button, that will automatically create the company's profile and take up the license slot of your CAS 360. So just take note of that. So you can see that Little Sunshine, for example, in the list of search registry, it's not on my list. So therefore, it doesn't take up my license slot. I just simply purchase the data and not convert them into a client yet. So to process that, we're going to go back to the search registry. And to purchase a company data, simply click on Search Registry and select the jurisdiction. So here it will prompt you that this particular feature is additional paid service. So CAS 360 will not just simply charge you for additional features simply like that. It will prompt you first that this particular feature is an add-on feature. So you will need to set up your payment method before you can even allow you to switch on this feature and start purchasing data. Now, if you want to use this route to onboard a client, I would highly recommend you to have a look at this process. I'll put this in the webinar chat as well, just so you can remember. And I'm just going to go back to this page over here. So again, the extract will be $10 per extract per download. So just take note of that. This because that when you purchase the business profile from Accra through CAS 360, we don't just provide you the PDF format, we also convert them from data to data, which means that it's it's a data format that you can easily import into your company selection. So that cuts down the amount of time manually typing in a company information. So that's the purpose of this search registry. So click on continue and you can search based on a UAN or company name. So for example, Ecologic, for example. So it will try to search in Accra's database based on the keyword that you have typed in or the company name. So I've got ecological warehouse, chain international, all that. So if this is my client, for example, this is my, they already have a existing record with Accra and you don't want to manually onboard them, you can simply purchase their business profile data. That's simply extra. And what's great about the search is that you can also do this in bulk. For example, something like Asia, for example. This is my other client. And you can have as many multiple extracts as you want. Once you have selected the companies you want to do a bulk extract, automatically it will do the whole calculation for you. So I've selected 4 companies for bulk upload, and I can just simply click confirm purchased, and this will then charge my card, or it will prompt me to pay Accra for the purchase of those companies. No, I'm not going to click on this one. It will charge the company's credit card, so I'll just leave it like that. But essentially, this is how you can onboard a company using a search registry. So once you have purchased those company data, what usually happens is that when you download them, so let's say this is an example of a download. This one's over here. It will show as action as extract. So what it means is that you've extracted out the data from Accra onto CAS 360. And it will give you 2 options. One is your downloaded extract. This is a PDF report format of the company that I've just purchased. So this is based on as of 13th of August. So if there's any changes after that, I will have to repurchase as well. And if I want these company And let's assume that this company is a confirmed client. I can simply click import. So a few examples that I've got is these companies over here. So I can click import to re-import this company onto CAS 360. So what will happen is that Clover, for example, we deactivated earlier, but I re-imported it back. It will take up the license slot of that particular of your CAS 360. So you can see now that Clover Valley Investments, it's now in your company selection. So all the data that you've purchased from Accra based on the business profile, it will be imported into your company selection. So if I'm going to go back to my company registration, for search register. So import here again. I'm just in this section. So any data that I have searched and purchased since these dates searched will be imported into CAS 360. Now, you can re-import it as many times as you want. We do not charge for import. However, if you want to download the extract, or rather, if you want to repurchase the same company, let's say because this date search is since 2024, if you want to repurchase the same company based on the current as of today's date, then this will have to go through the whole process of repurchasing the business registration profile of that company. So that will be additional charge. Otherwise, if you're re-importing the same purchase data onto the CAS 360, it will not be chargeable. And you'll see as well, because we've imported this company onto our company selection. And if you want to re-import again with the same data, for example, or let's say we've made some changes in the in this company along the way, but maybe you want to refresh everything again and re-import the old data back, for example, you can simply click action, override the extract, and click confirm. So this overwriting of your current purchase extract will not be chargeable. So this is how we do a bulk upload or bulk download of business profile in CAS 360. Now, something I want to take note in this particular topic as well, so I'm just going to go quickly. So one of the common questions we get is that what are the information that gets downloaded? So it's exactly similar to the business profile. We are able to pull out company details, key dates, entity, and all these name registrations, auditors, and such. So it's similar to the business profile. It's just that unfortunately, Accra doesn't allow us to connect to their search registers, the full register or historical registers, which means the historical record of the company, as that is additional purchase. So in Accra alone, that costs about $25 to download the historical data of a company. And that's why for us, they charge us $10, right, for you to be able to simply purchase the business profile. Now, what's again, the benefit of doing that is simply you no longer have to type in the company's information manually. It all pulls out from your business profile purchase and converted into data format stored into CAS 360. All right. So any question on this particular topic, onboarding clients? All right. So if there's no question, I'm gonna go to our lesson number 3. So the next topic I want to cover will be your company addresses changes. Now, in company address change, we're gonna learn how to process different types of company addresses, which includes your registered office addresses, location of the registers, which we've gone through a little bit earlier, a bit of preview, and managing your contacts and address. This is quite essential and important, especially if you have for example, a shareholder's information or the officers in change in address and contact information. How do we process that in CAS 360? Now, going back to CAS 360 over here, so we're going to use the same company. Again, we'll go to your main dashboard, company selection, and I will search and select 25th November. Now, in your tabs, you can see different tab system over here. So what we'll select in this exercise is your address tab. Here in my address tab, I can see I've already have a registered office address. But what we want to do is we want to change its current office address to a new address. To do that, simply click on New Address and select Registered Office Address. So here I will select, let's say, a new address from Changi Business to Shenton Way, for example. You can add an effective date. And you can also apply the same address to other addresses as well, including your business, postal, meeting, and also the location of the registers. So here I'm just going to simply switch off the toggle button over here and click Save. So because the system recognizes that there has been a corporate action that occurred for this company, which is a change of company registered office address, automatically the print toggle will switch on. And on the very bottom of your CAS 360, you will see this button over here called Prepare Forms. So here, click on Prepare Forms. This will then bring you to your document production. So I've got over here document production for company change summary and also my resolution for a director minutes and resolution for a address change. So you can choose to either send a document to the client or download the document here. I'm just going to simply download it for now. So you have this document over here. Now, so this is how we change the address, the registered office address. Now, if you recall earlier on, as mentioned, if your address for registrable controller and nominee directors does not sync up with the address of your registered filing agent, for example, when you prepare the annual returns for this particular company, for example, and this is November. All right. So I'm just going to give you a bit of preview just to show to you what I meant by it. I'm gonna just put in today's date, save and prepare. So in my annual return report, you will see that it's no longer in the address of the registered filing agent. It will automatically say that it's in the registered office of the company instead. So just take note of that. Because the address didn't match to the address of your corpus, it will automatically select the registered office address of the company. All right, so that's how we change the registered office address. Now, going back to the same company, we're going to also learn how to change the location of the register. So again, in the address tab, we're going to select new address, and here we will select location of register kept. So what I'll do is I'll change the location of the register kept in 5 business Changi. Or maybe I'll put it on something else, just so you can display. And we'll use an example as the registrable controllers and nominee directors. And click Save. So you can see right over here that in my registrable controller and nominee directors, I have now a different address. It's no longer in the registered office address of the company. It's in another location instead. So if I were to go back to my returns page, and I'll search for that company and select prepare documents. And when I preview the document, what you'll notice is that it should display a different address here. So it will display an address of that is located and also disclosed in your address, which is Serangoon. So that's how we do the location of change of the location of address in CAS 360. So going back to that, the location of the registered kept is not just limited to registrable controllers. We also have your other registers address, director shareholdings, debentures, and members. So if the locations are kept not in the registered office address somewhere else, you can simply switch this toggle button on as well. All right. So the next topic I want to cover in this lesson is your contacts and addresses. So earlier on, we've gone through it a little bit at the beginning in lesson number 1. So contacts is the third icon over here. And in the contacts, it will display 2 tabs. One is a global contact, the other one is addresses. So before I go through the global contacts, I'm going to just go through the global address first. So global address, essentially you can add as many addresses as you want, but bear in mind that, the best and good practice is to ensure that you don't have any duplicate addresses. On the left-hand side, you can see you have all the address, and CAS 360 is able to filter addresses that are not in use, which means that they're not attached to any contact or any company as well. So good practice is simply to delete them from your record so that to avoid using duplicate addresses. Similarly, in find match just over here. So if you have address that are duplicate, it will show to you that you have added or recorded multiple address. So going back to address, in the address space, you are able to see which company and which contact is using this address. For example, 101 Cecil Street, you can see that there are 25 records in use. So you can see that by hovering my mouse onto this blue text, you can see that 18 company is using it as a company address for debentures, director shareholdings, members, nominee directors, and registrable controller. You can also download a full usage report of that particular address to display who and which company is using that address. So I've also got Andy Temp using it as a previous residential address. The bank is using that address and so on. So a lot of people are using this address, essentially. This is a great way for you to keep track if which company uses that. So and a good example is your office. As the registered filing agents, a lot of times your client will engage to use your registered office address for a lot of purposes, whether it's their contact address or their own registered office address or location of your directors, shareholdings, officers, and so on. You will see that your own registered office address as a service provider will have a lot of record in the list. So that's for global address. Now to edit the address, so for example, I've got the address over here and I want to change, let's say, the way my Singapore is displayed over here. So here what I can do is I can simply click on Singapore, options, edit, and I can just simply type in Singapore. Let's say I just want it to be a proper case, for example, and click Save. So you can edit the way you want your address to display. So what you also notice is that in the address, you have the city and then the postal code and Singapore. So you can simply just ignore this part. What this Singapore means is that essentially it's just creating a label of what type of address style that this address is using. So for this case, it's using a Singapore address style. So if I were to search, for example, Hong Kong, you can see that Hong Kong, it used the address style for this particular address is Hong Kong, and therefore it shows Hong Kong over here. So this word Hong Kong will not display on your resolution and documents. It's just identifier to identify this is a Hong Kong address or a Singapore address and such. Now, let's go to the first tab over here. We're going to go back to global contacts. So essentially, global contacts, very important features because a lot of times you will encounter your clients changing their credentials, their passport details, and addresses. So here you can see these are the list of contacts. You can add as many as you can. But very good practice, again, is to ensure that to check whether you have contacts that are not in use. If these contacts are not assigned to any companies, you can simply remove them. Or if not, if they're still pending for check, you can still retain them as it is as well. Now, this particular feature is very useful when it comes to finding any duplicates. So you can match based on full name address, full name only, or first name and surname only. This is to help you identify if, for example, you have whether this company, this particular contact is the same contact, but uses a different credential or information. So you can see Alan Trevor has a address of Leston Road. Alan Trevor, I would believe that they are the similar, same person, uses this different address as well. So it's very common, especially for like in Singapore, you may have like a multiple David Dunn, for example. This is usually common, and you want to make sure that you're keeping the right David Dunn, or removing the ones that are not in use. So if you have cases like you have duplicate, but the credentials are different, what you can simply do is switch to full name address. Full name address will help you to identify much better, as it will try to not only match the full name, but also the address. So you can see an example of Henry Bendix. The first Henry Bendix has much more complete information as compared to the other Henry Bendix over here. So if I'm going to go to my contacts and go to investigate further, you can see I have two Henry Bendix. You can see that when I click on the profile of Henry Bendix, it doesn't have that much information over here. It's more incomplete. So it happens quite often that we add in duplicate contact information, and some doesn't have the full information. So if I'm going to go back to Henry, for example, and select the first one, this particular one has much more information and much more accurate. So let's say I will add in identification. So let's use Henry Bendix, for example, over here. Now, in your contacts, when you are adding in information, you can simply select the contact. So this is an example of a person that it has all this information, but firstly, it doesn't have a contact, the contact address. It doesn't have any passport details. So you need to add that in. So I'm going to just quickly add those information. So addresses, we're going to just use contact address. I'll type in 15 Scots. Click save. So this is now the contact address. And I'll add in your identification number, which is very important. If this particular person is a foreign contact, so essentially what you'll want to use is either a passport, for example, so you can add in passport details. Let's assume that it's from, for example, France. Okay. And click save. Now, if I go back to my global contacts and go back to find matches, you can see this person, I know that this is the one that's much more complete. This one has less information. So I can select which one to keep. Now, also something to take note as well is that when you are managing your find matches or duplicates, you want to take a look at the relationship as well. For this particular contact, it has more relationship attached to it. Is an office holding for a Hong Kong company, shareholding for a Hong Kong company. This obviously it's a duplicate. So what you can do is simply select these ones to keep. And what will happen is that it will merge the data information. So it will keep this information, but it will merge the shareholding. So this contact will no longer be the contact under the shareholding contact in CAS Training Hong Kong company, but it will take these contact instead, as it has much more complete information. So this is very useful, especially if you know that you have multiple contacts attached to multiple companies and they're just a similar person. Right. So going back to contacts, now another thing that you can manage with your global contact is when you're adding contacts, you have the ability to select the type of contact. So for an individual, this is essentially assigned for a contact, a person. So if you're setting up a person's contact, you can fill up this information, address, birth details, and also their ID verification as well. So similarly, if you select add contact and select company, this is for you to allow you to set up a corporate information. So a good example would be your corporate shareholders. If you have corporate shareholder, you will need to select it as a company instead of a individual. So the birth details will now be switched to place of incorporation and incorporated date of incorporation. Now, sometimes you will know, you will also encounter things like if the company is if link an existing company from CAS 360 company list, what it means that if this corporate shareholder is also your client as well, you can simply switch on the toggle button and select, for example, 25th November, or let's say test Singapore company. Automatically, it pulls out the registered office address, date of incorporation, and you'll just need to fill up the rest of the details. So let's assume this one, I would assume that this test Singapore company will also be a corporate shareholder. Then you can just click save. So this saves a lot of time, especially when you're setting up a corporate contact that's already recorded inside your company selection list. Now, going back to in the global context, now the way to edit, so most of the time you will encounter cases that we need to edit if we made a mistake on recording an information for a contact, or you need to, let's say, update their identification. So what we did just now, an example would be Henry. And there's two ways to access to the profile of Henry. So one is the option button, click edit, or you can simply click on Henry's name, and this will bring you to the profile. Now to change the information, so let's assume that the residential address of Henry has been changed to another location. To edit that, simply go to the text in blue with the hyperlink. So in CAS 360, a good tip is that any text that is in blue can be clicked, can be modified, or can be previewed. So for this case, we are editing the residential address. So here I'm probably just going to put, let's say, Yunus, maybe, or Woodlands, for example. So I'm just going to select this address and click save. And in this process, what will happen because we're changing a address for a particular contact, which is very common in this case, what will happen in CAS 360? It will prompt you to do a change of residential address for this contact. So for this case, I will click on prepare forms. This is the contact address. You can see that there is multiple contacts using the same address as well. If it doesn't apply to the rest of these contacts, you can simply ignore. If these address, if they use the same address and it's applied, you can simply switch on the toggle button over here. But here, I'm just going to keep it as it is and click proceed. So what you'll see over here is that there has been a change of contact documents here. So this is because it's a company, a Hong Kong company. So I'm just a contact attached to the Hong Kong company. So I'm going to use another example, a Singapore one. So I'll go to Veronica, an example. So it's similar process as well. Again, you can see that I have much more complete information, and I'll just change the residential address to, let's say, maybe Juchat. So you can see, or add another one. So again, it will prompt you the same. So if you need to prepare, so common question is, how do we prepare the documents for a Singapore contact that they change their residential address? So this is where you process this under your global contact and simply editing the documents. So you can see over here that Veronica, so we had, because Veronica is actually attached to multiple companies, one as a nominee director, and also shareholder and secretary to multiple companies. It will help you prepare the multi-company changes in CAS 360. So this is actually very useful when this contact is assigned to multiple companies, and when they change their address, their residential address for this case, this scenario, automatically, once you confirm that, this will bring you to your multi-company change to show which companies that they are attached to, and which companies that you need to process for a change of residential address for Veronica Tan. All right, so that's for changing the contacts. And going back to, again, in the contacts as well. So we'll use the same contact, Veronica Tan. So in this section, you can see I've got my residential and also ID over here. And what happens is that all this information, particularly on the ID, it will mirror and duplicate, or rather, it will actually mirror onto this tab called compliance. If the information is, let's say, it's a passport, instead of NRIC details, it will display as the passport number. In there, you will be able to add in the passport issued and passport expiry and help you to keep track if this passport has already expired. And again, you will see in every contact, you will have this visual ID verification or AML screening. So visual ID verification, the big difference in this one is that if you have a contact stored in CAS 360, but you do not have their ID, or they're not, let's say especially if you're managing other jurisdictions like UK, Australia, or New Zealand, that's quite much more stricter when it comes to collecting information and ID information of the contact. You can use this request ID verification. Otherwise, for Singapore, we're much more CorpSec are required to keep the ID information of your contacts, so you can simply just use the AML screening. So I won't cover this a little bit more. This is in the next topic altogether. We don't cover this for now for this level 1, but have a test of it if you like. Feel free to test it as well so you can know the power of our BGL ID. All right. So any questions so far for contacts and addresses? If there's no question, I'm going to proceed to the next topic. All right. So will be your changes of officers. So changes of officers can be found on your page 67 of your manual all the way. So I'm going to skip on opening of bank account information. I'm just going to go through the different types of company changes in this exercise. And I'm also going to learn how to reprint a company change documents in CAS 360. So again, we're going to use the similar company that we've just set up. And here I'm going to select 25th November. And for this exercise, what we're going to select is an officer. So we'll click on the officers tab, and you can see these are the officers that we've just appointed earlier during our company registration process. So here, first exercise that we're going to do is we're going to learn how to appoint an officer. Here, to appoint a new officer, simply click Add on Officer. And you can select the officer that you need to appoint. So for example, I've got over here, I'll appoint myself. And let's assume I am the new secretary and click Save. Because it's appointment of a secretary, again, the system automatically understood that there was a company change that happened for this company. Automatically, CAS 360 will prompt you to prepare forms. So here we're going to click on prepare forms. And again, you'll see the summary on the left-hand side and also your documents for a appointment of a new secretary. So here an example, this is an example of our standard default template. These templates can be customized. I'll cover this on level 2 on Thursday, but essentially this is how it looks like. You also have your members. your register of secretaries as well, over here, and your Form 45B. So in your document production, you also have the ability to edit your document options. So each of the document allows you to customize the display, whether it's a resolution or minutes type, or how the signing will be displayed. So for example, in my options, it's a resolution type. Print a date on each signing line. This will be the format, or print in words. Unfortunately, we cannot remove the signing line and signing options. The best way we can only do is have these for the signing partners to put in the date. You can also add in resolution date. If you do not wish to, you can simply switch off that toggle button. You also have the ability, if you do not wish to display. So for example, earlier on, if you preview the document, it displays the passport and ID of that new officer. If you want to disclose that, just switch off that button. And here, I don't want to date the document, so it's quite common. So you can just leave the document date blank. So once I click this OK, and if I were to preview the document one more time, you can see that whatever edits that I've done in the option button for a director resolution will now be applied. So you can no longer see the passport detail or the NRIC of this new secretary. The documents are, this particular change has not applied the date of this transaction. So it has now been displayed based on the adjustment I did. And here you have your Form 45B as well. Now I'm not gonna download that. I'll just close this one as well and cancel that. That's fine. Now, what we're gonna do is we'll also learn how to resign a particular officer or remove. So when we want to change a status of an officer, you can simply go to the Officer tab. And for this exercise, let's assume I want to remove David James, or David James, as my officer or secretary. So here I will, under the secretary's position, I will resign him as a secretary. You can input the cease date and click the tick option to confirm. And now you can see prepare forms as well. So earlier on, because I canceled these appointment of secretary, which means I didn't process any documents for that. And I want to process that. I'm ready to process the document. So what has happened is that the system understood that first is that I enabled this feature to print for appointment of a new secretary, Jennifer, and a resignation of the old secretary, David James, to resign. So you can see on your prepare forms, it will prompt you to prepare two types of transaction. So when we click on that prepare forms, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, it will show you what are the two activities that happen for this company. One is a appointment of a new officer. Two is a resignation of the old secretary. And in this document pack, you will see not only your Form 45B, but you'll also see the resignation, which is in relation to resignation of James as a secretary. Your register as well on secretary will be updated. So you can see now that David James is no longer attendee, it ceased its position as a secretary, and this is the updated new secretary for this company. And when you look into your director resolution to preview, again, just click on the document. So to preview the document, a quick tip is just simply clicking on the text in blue. You can see that what the resolution has done is that it created a combined resolution for appointment of secretary and resignation of secretary. So this saves a lot of time if you are having multiple transactions at the same time for a company on the same date. You can create combined minutes and resolution and also extract out the necessary forms and documents required for that multiple company changes. So here for this, I will extract and download all. And again, it will export a PDF copy, and all these documents will be stored in my global documents. So you can see in my company change summary, I've got the appointment of a new officer, cessation of the previous ones, my combined resolution, resignation letter of the old secretary. Again, this can be customizable. My register and appointment of the new one. So this is how we do a combined resolutions and minutes for multiple changes happening for the company. Now, in here, you can see all the resigned, the current as well. And you can also see over here, I'm just gonna go all your current, all your historical. So sometimes when you want to preview your historical officers, you can simply go to the filter. It will show to you both resigned and appointed. Now, by default, when you go to different tabs and you go to officers, it will automatically just show you the current one. So to display all the historical, simply select current, and you have an option over here that allows you to print your current registers and also your historical registers. So for example, if I want to print my current officers right now, it will allow me to display current registers, current directors, and current secretary. So that's for appointment or doing a officer change. Any questions so far for this particular change for an officer? All right, so I'm not gonna cover the bank account as earlier on. We've just covered that in one of the earlier exercises. So now I'm gonna jump straight to members changes. Again, so we're going to work on to the same company. And this time around, what we'll do is we'll select the shareholder tab. So for this lesson number 5, members changes, we're going to learn how to do a simple share transaction, like your allotments of share transfers, processing nominee shareholders and registrable controller. And along the way, we're also going to teach you how to use the automated document deadline reminders and document review using your document production. So these content can be found on your page 79 of your manual. Again, you can just easily go to this tab over here and locate it straight to the content. So this earlier on, we've assigned a corporate shareholder for this company. And you can see over here, by default, it will create the chart of the current shareholders. In your shareholders tab, you have the ability to not only do your allotments and share transfers, you can also do different types of transactions like your subscription, cancellation, change of beneficial ownerships, return of capital, and so on. So for this exercise, what we're going to do is we will allot a new shareholder for this company. So here I have selected under the add transaction allotments, and I'm going to select a new shareholder. So I'm going to put myself information, and you can also select the share class. So here I'll just put maybe 100 shares. I'll just put in, let's say, capital, issued share capital. And if, for example, you don't have any issued share capital for this particular shareholder, for example, it's just going to be none, it's still very important to take note that you need to put in a figure, because most of the time when you click save, it will prompt you to key in, please enter an issued share capital. If there's nothing, simply put as 0. So automatically it will issue the certificate number 2 and click save. So again, once again, the system understood that there is a prepare forms for this allotments of shares for this company. So before I print that out, so what I'll do is I'm going to do another share transaction. So you can see on the left-hand side, it has been updated. So you've got 2 new shareholders and the amount of percentage that each of the shareholding holds. So here I'm going to add in do another transaction, which is a share transfer. So here, what I'll do is I will select among my list of current shareholders. Let's see, I'm going to select this corporate shareholder, and I will have James Chan to be the new shareholder. And also something to take note as well, if you have a beneficiary owner, you can set up your beneficiary owner under your shareholders page as well. So here automatically it detects that it's an ordinary shares, and I'm just going to transfer 200. And I'll put in maybe another 10,000, for example. And automatically it will create a balance certificate. So the balance certificate, depending on your practice, the balance certificate will be issued to the corporate shareholder, which is CAS 360 20th July company, and certificate number 4 will be issued to the new shareholder. So here I'm going to click Save. And you can see right over here the summary. Your chart has been up to date. You've got now CAS 360 20th July has 50% shareholdings, while Jamestown has 33.33%. So again, you can see that I have multiple company changes that occur just for shareholders alone for this company. So here on my prepare forms, I'm ready to prepare the documents, including my application on my shares and share transfer forms. So on the left-hand side, again, back to my document production screen, you can see on the left-hand side that there's two things that occur for this company. One is a share allotment, and the other one is a transfer of shares. So similarly to the officers changed, it will create a combined resolutions for you. So you can see right over here, authority to issue shares and also transfers of share from the corporate to James Shan. And again, similarly, you have the ability to customize the settings of your director's resolution. You have your transfer journal. You've also got your share certificates as well. So you've got the balance certificate. You've got certificate number 2 to the new shareholder, and balance certificate from transfer to the transferee, certificate number 4. And here you have your transfer form from the corporate shareholder to the new shareholder as well. And your register of members. So one of the things that I'm also gonna share to you in this document production page is that you can also reorder the documents. So for example, if I want to move my director's minutes and resolution right after my register of members, I can simply click onto this document and hold and simply move the document. So you can move around the documents as and when you want. So I'm going to move right over here. And if you like this particular order to apply for any future settings or documents, so for example, I want this particular order to be shareholder docs order 1. I can simply save that document order so that if I were to do another share transaction and have the similar order without having to move the documents back and forth or rearranging the order, I can simply select shareholder docs. So if I want to move back to the previous order, I can simply do that. Otherwise, I can simply select my save document order. Right, so now that I have all these documents, I can now simply click on download all. And again, it will preview those documents. right? So in CAS 360, again, you can reprint the same transaction as well. So for example, I want to reprint my share transfer from the corporate shareholder to James Chance. I can simply switch on the print toggle to print the document. And let's say I do not want to have a combined resolution, right? It's just I want it to be just one single document specifically for these one single transaction. You can always reprint that again by simply switching on the toggle button. Now, since we're reprinting this the share transfer from this company corporate shareholder to James Chan. So I also want to take the opportunity to teach you how to set this particular powerful feature called automated document deadline reminders. So in CAS 360 over here, you will see that in your download all and send all features, you will notice that there is an arrow next to it. So when you select arrow up, it will allow you to see that you can download all the documents in separate PDF instead of one single PDF with all this consolidated information. You can download separate PDF files for each of these items. So one PDF for registrable of member, one PDF for the resolution, one PDF file for share certificate, and so on. Now, in this feature as well, this will also allow you to download all the documents and set up what we call the automatic document reminders. So again, we'll just select that feature, and this will allow you to not only download the document in PDF or send the document directly to the client, but when you go back to CAS 360, you will see that a page called automated document reminders will prompt into your to your screen, and this will prompt you to set up a reminder to your client to be sent automatically pertaining to this document. So for example, on today, let's say 25th, today, I'm just gonna put in 05, maybe PM. And put myself an example, like save. And what happens is that in my documents, you can see there's a document pending for reminder to send a reminder to my client about this document. You also be able to see it in your pending outbox as well. So either in your document, so you can see that the bell icon is no longer there because it's already 5:20, and which means that it has already been sent to the client. So if I were to go, for example, to the client's inbox, so let's assume I am in my client's inbox. I'm just going to show you a quick one over here. You can see document deadline reminder has been sent. So it will display your username, which is your full name, but it by default is going to show no reply at CAS 360. That's completely fine. And this is my custom email template. I'm going to cover this a little bit more on level 2. And it will come together with the attached document of my share transaction. So with the document deadline reminder, you can send multiple documents as well. If you not just for let's say tomorrow, but you can also add in multiple document deadline reminders to remind the client about these documents. So instead of having to drop them email, you can just create a automated reminder to remind them of these documents if you haven't signed the document as of yet. All right, so going back to the company, so now that's how we process a share transactions in CAS 360. Now going back to that same page and same company, again, we're gonna select the same company and go to shareholders. This time around, we'll learn how to set up a nominee shareholders and document review. So under shareholders, you can see a button over here, nominee shareholders. And first, what you'll do is you'll need to set up the data information of the shareholder for this company, followed by preparing the documents. So here, I'm just going to select maybe Andy Tam and James, for example. Position, appointed, and save and prepare. So here you will have a register of nominee shareholder. If you are appointing a nominee shareholder on behalf of Veronica Tan. Now in this page, so I'm gonna just go through again. You can always send this document to the client. So we'll do an example of how a document will look like if you send it directly to the client. So we've been using this particular feature quite often. So now what we're gonna do is use this option instead. I'm just going to switch off this document. And you can see that when you're sending the document directly from CAS 360 to your client, this will first allow you to preview the email content that will display into your client's inbox. You can see this is register nominee directors. This is my contact. I've copy and paste my signature as well, so this people my client can see, and click send. So in my inbox, I will receive a attached copy of the nominee shareholder for me to preview and have a look or sign if any as well. So this is not just limited for nominee shareholder, but anything in your document production. So next one that we're going to cover, still under your shareholders tab, is your registrable controller. So in the registrable controller, to prepare the necessary documents, including the notices, you must first make sure that you switch on this toggle button. This feature is enabled that this company is required to maintain a registrable controller register. If this is switched off, this will not allow you to add in the information of the registrable controller. So by switching on this toggle button, you can see the big difference. You can now set up the data information and also view and print the documents. So here what I'll do is I'll add in a registrable controller. Let's assume it's going to be Roger Lam. This is his position. You can add in the date of notice sent, date of confirmation. So I'll just add in notice date, any additional information. Click save and prepare. So what you'll see is that you have your register of registrable controllers and also your confirmation letter. What you also notice is along this process, there is a missing step and document that you have, your notices. So here, what we're going to do is we'll close this document production. We'll just simply click save the record. Right here. So now you can view, it will prompt you to view your existing registrable controller. So if you recall earlier on, we've assigned David Lim as well as the registrable controller. So you can just click view your registrable controller. And what you'll need to do to order to enable CAS 360 to print the notice by simply, again, making sure this toggle button is switched on and select your registrable controller. And this time around, we were going to select print registrable controller. This will prompt you to switch on the print toggle if this particular registrable controller requires a notice. And here I'm just going to select the notice type. I'm just going to put here, I'll just put another person, for example. And click prepare document. So here you can now see that not only it prepares your register, but you also have your confirmation letter and also your notice for controller. So now that we're in this page, we're also gonna make sure how to enable this feature called document review. So there are times that you want, if you are a user and before sending this document off to a client, you want your manager or your team leader to review the documents. So within the CAS 360, you will see what we call these tool over here called flag documents to be reviewed, what we call document review. So here, if I switch on the toggle button, this will enable me as the preparer of this document, one of the users, to send to my manager to review before sending it to the client. So I'm just going to add in the note to my manager. Kindly confirm that these are the right person. And click that, and I'll put in my review. So let's assume I am the reviewer or the manager. So once I'm okay with that, so unfortunately, in this feature, you can only send it. You cannot download the document to do the review. You will have to have the option to switch on, or rather send the document from CAS 360 to the client. So here I'm going to click send all. Again, you will preview the document, click send. And before it gets sent out to the client, what will happen is that the manager will receive a notification. So let's assume I am the manager who needs to review what my staff member has prepared before sending it to the client. As a manager, I will receive this notification over here to display that there is a document that needs to be reviewed, sent by one of my team members. So here, I'll just click on documents, and under my document review, I will get a pending status. So you see, I have an example of some rejected ones, and I can simply review the documents. And let's assume that there are some informations that incorrect. Please call, let's say, please call Veronica to get the new passport information, for example, or ID details. So I can choose to approve the document. So when I click on approved, this will automatically get sent to the client's email. Otherwise, if I were to choose to reject the document, what will happen that to my staff member who prepare, or my team members who prepare this document, they will receive a notification in the bell icon to notify them that the document they just sent to their reviewer, to the manager, has been rejected by their manager. So you can simply click on view. This will bring them to their global documents. And you can see that there is a note over here. Please call Veronica to get the new ID details. The review has failed as a status. So if I correct, so as the preparer, I will need to do the necessary changes before I resend again for review. And once it's confirmed, it will automatically be sent to the client's email on this particular document. So this is how we enable the document review in CAS 360. All right, so this is any questions so far for changing or share transactions in CAS 360 and changes of registrable controller and nominee directors, nominee shareholder. All right. So a very quick one as well. This is a very common question among the practices is that, so with nominee shareholders and registrable controllers, they can all be found under the shareholder. What about your nominee directors? So because it's a director, it's an officer, so it will be placed under officers. And under when you set up a officer, it will allow you to select a nominee director as you add in a set up a new officer that is a nominee director. So you will need to select a nominator as well for this particular nominee director. All right. So the next lessons are gonna come. Sorry about it. It got a bit more extended. There's a lot of topics and a lot of tips and tricks that I wanted to share as well. So the second last topic that I want to cover is your company name changes. So in CAS 360, you have the ability to change the company and process the documents for that. It's quite common for companies to go through a rebranding or change of company name. And to do that, again, again, make sure to select the company. So we're going to select the same company that we've been using. Tentative. And this time around, we will select the name registration. So here under name registration, select add name and select change company name. So here there are a couple of prerequisite information that you'll need to, you're required to answer, or you can simply skip that. Proposed name, I will just say 25th. 25th trading, for example. You can change the suffixes as well. So I'm just going to put the standard one. And you can save and prepare the documents. Again, same process. It will allow you to prepare your resolutions. It will also allow you to prepare your members of short notice. If there's any change in the company, your members' minutes. Right. And once you've done that, again, you can simply send this document to the client or download also. I'm just going to simply download up for quickly to preview. Right. So again, this is the set of documents for any change of company name that occurred for that particular company. So what you'll notice as well is that once you return back to the name registrations, the company name hasn't changed as of yet. And they have this thing called pending. To remove the pending, you need to simply remove the pending status, add in the effective date. So it will prompt you that effective date cannot be changed on the same date. You can simply put in the next date. And so what will happen is that when you go to your company selection and search for 25th November, it will no longer display in your company selection because we have renamed the company to 20th Street. And when you search for the company, for example, 25th November, you can see that you can still search for that company. However, it will be labeled as previous company name. So sometimes you forget that we have actually renamed this company. So you can still search it on your global search, but in your company selection search list, it will no longer detect it as 25th November trading company. So again, I can just select that and it will automatically bring me to my name registration that this company's current new name is 23rd Street Trading Private Limited. So that's how we prepare apply a company name change and prepare the documents. All right, so the last topic for the lesson, for the level 1 session is on your lesson number 7, be page 1112 of your manual. If you're in your manual right now, is your documents. So there are two ways to view your documents. So if you recall, in this company for the 25th November, now it's a 20th Street Trading, we have processed several documents over here. And if I go again, I'm gonna just to give you the hang of doing this. Again, we'll select the company, and to view all the documents we prepared for 25th Street Trading, we can simply click on Documents. You can see that all these documents are the documents we've prepared across the entire exercise for today's session. We have company registration, company address update, company changes, and you can see in some of the company changes, you can simply expand out what were the different company changes from a change of secretary to share transactions. You've got share transfer, reprinting of share transfers, nominee shareholder, registrable controller, and company name change. Now, to preview the document, you can simply click on Options and select Attachment. So in CAS 360, how it works is that whenever you're processing a document, exporting or sending it to the client, it will automatically create a folder with the trace number. And this will also like give you the change that occur, what's inside that file, what was the exact company change that occur in the trace number file 1259, for example. So to preview and view that document, simply go to Options and select Attachments. So this is how to preview all the documents that you have generated for that specific company that you've selected. Another option to preview is going to your global documents. Now, the big difference in going to the global documents is that not only you'll be able to see all the documents prepared for one specific company, but you can also view all the documents prepared for all the companies across all your clients. This process is very useful, especially if you want to just, let's say, if you have your digital signing already synced up with CAS 360, you can filter based on electronically signing sent to client. These are the examples. They have already sent the client, but nothing has happened. So you need to action it as well. Or any annual return reviews, right? And so on. And the wonderful thing about here is, so just like similar to company documents, you can upload a document for a particular company. So for example, let's say on the same, we'll select this company, for example, and I want to add in the financial statement, for example. And here I can select the type of status of the document. For example, document signed by the client as a confirmation, and click Save. And you can simply attach the supporting documents and you have these documents. If I were to go to 15 June, for example, and I go on a company level, you can see that this folder that I've just created is also saved in the individual company tab of 15 June company. So going back to my global documents, here as well, you have the ability to filter. So base company type, trust, agent, document type. Let's say you want to see only annual return documents. You can just simply apply the filter and it will list down all your annual returns documents. You can also stack some of the filter. For example, I've got my annual return documents, statuses. I'll tap in manually filed. So I want to know all the annual return documents that I've manually filed directly to Accra. I can simply stack that filter, click apply filter, and it will show me all the companies that have been manually filed. And if you want to use the same filter in future searches, you can simply save this filter as well. So an example over here, I've got an example save filter, RORC and annual return documents. And to save this filter, essentially what you can simply do is gonna just the advanced filter. Let's say we'll do an example over here. So let's assume we'll do annual return. Document type, annual returns, and manually filed. So I'm going to clear all this. Annual returns, anything that's manually filed. And instead of having to type this multiple times for the same search, you can simply click the save filter, AR already filed with Accra, for example. Right. So what I can do is I'll go to my save filter and I can just save AR. That particular save filter, annual return already filed with Accra. So it will show to me, oh, so these are all my annual return documents, the AGM and annual return documents that I've already processed. And if you have, for example, you won't be able to see, but if you have like the attached document or like the confirmed documents copy from Accra, you can simply attach those Accra copies of your annual return filing, whether it's confirmation of the payments and the new copy of the business registration. Lastly, in your global documents, you have an example over here. Let's say DocuSign, signed by client. So the power of the option tool here in your global documents and also company documents is that in the option tab, you have the ability to see the historical trail of the document. An example over here is this company over here, 28 August trading. I want to know the historical track to see when was the document being prepared, the timestamp, when it was sent to the client by DocuSign, and when it was signed by the client. So the document history allows you to keep track the whole timestamp or a whole journey of the document itself. So if, for example, one example again also is in your manual documents, you can see that in the history, you've only changed it into manually filed documents. So if there's any changes to that, for example, I've attached some documents over here, you can always change the status as well. If the lodgement rejected, for example, oh, I've manually filed it, but it got rejected, you can see that in the historical trail, this document has manually filed, but the lodgement has been rejected, and you need to rectify that. Right. So that's for global documents. So these features in the advanced are very powerful to help you filter all the documents across all the companies. Whereas in a company document, this is to be able to view documents prepared to that specific company as well. Lastly, for here in the documents, if you need to export out the document listing, the status of all the documents you have prepared, and what's the status like, you can simply export the document listing to give you the whole trace number, when it was prepared, the status of the document for your housekeeping matters as well. So quite essentially, the trace number is a very useful one because it will create a trace number for each folder that CAS 360 create for each document you send or export out. So the whole process in CAS 360 is essentially a very important thing to remember is that first you need to add in the data, then followed by making your company changes, whether it's officers and shareholder. And the moment you export out, download the document from document production, CAS 360 will automatically create a folder copy of those documents that you have exported or sent to your client as a copy. So it really does that the whole entire circular workflow to help you manage your company company changes documents for your client. All right. So unfortunately, we've quite extended for a little bit in a while. All right. So this is pretty much the last part of my training sessions. Any questions so far? I'm just going to switch over here. All right. If there's no questions, thank you so much for your time. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me by email. You do have my email as well. Otherwise, you can always reach out to our live chat supports. Use our resource Singapore Help Guide, and also reach out to our support consultants if you need any further assistance as well. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for the sessions, and hopefully to see you in my level 2 session on Thursday as well. Thank you, everyone.